It was supposed to be just another ordinary afternoon. Mom had gone to the market, saying she'd be back in an hour, and I was home with Dad like so many times before. He was on the couch watching the news while I headed to my room to scroll through my phone. Everything seemed normal at first, but then a strange silence settled over the house. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that wraps itself around your nerves and makes your skin crawl. I thought I heard a drawer open in the kitchen and called out to Dad, but there was no response. That's when unease began to creep in. I stepped cautiously into the hallway and turned the corner to see him staring at the television, but his expression was off, tense, distant. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and strange, like he was saying something more to himself than to me. I asked what he meant, but he just shook his head and muttered, "Forget it." Trying to brush it off, I returned to my room. But then I saw something new on the hallway table. A small velvet pouch, dark blue with a gold drawstring. It wasn't mine, and it certainly didn't belong to Dad. Curiosity took over. I opened it to find an old key and a folded slip of paper with a single address written in unfamiliar handwriting. It smelled faintly of perfume. My heart skipped. Why would Dad have this? And why leave it out unless he thought no one would see it? I slipped it into my pocket, pretending I hadn't seen anything. Later, I looked up the address. It was only about 10 minutes away. No listing. Just an old house wedged between two larger buildings. Plain, hidden, suspicious. A thought crept in. What if Mom knew about this? She'd been making more frequent trips to the market lately, sometimes twice a day. I'd brushed it off, but now, I wasn't so sure. The rest of the day passed in a blur. That night, I couldn't sleep. My dad's distant expression, the pouch, the address, they swirled in my mind. In the morning, I tested something. Over breakfast, I casually mentioned the street name from the note. Dad froze only for a second, but I noticed. Then he smiled and changed the subject. That told me everything. Over the next few days, I began watching more closely. Mom came home looking more tired than usual. Her eyes carried something heavy. When I asked if she was okay, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then, while pretending to clean, I found an old photo album buried deep in the closet. One picture stopped me cold. Dad, standing in front of that same old house. He looked younger. Beside him stood a woman holding his hand. It wasn't my mom. I stared at the picture, heart pounding. Who was this woman? Why was this hidden? Was she still around? Was she the reason for the key and the note? That night, once my parents were asleep, I slipped out with the key in my pocket and headed for the address. The house was even older than in the photo. The porch light flickered. To my surprise, the front door wasn't locked. I stepped inside, and the scent of old wood and perfume wrapped around me. I moved cautiously, heart racing. Then I saw another photo, Dad with the same woman, and this time, she held a small child. My stomach dropped. Was this a second family? A sibling I never knew? Suddenly, I heard footsteps above me. I froze, considered running. But just then, my eyes caught something else. An envelope on the table with my name on it. Someone had expected me. The footsteps came closer, and then a figure stepped into the light. It was a woman older now, but her eyes were unmistakable. She motioned for me to sit, and when she reached the bottom of the stairs, she looked at the envelope in my hands. "He said you'd come someday," she said softly. I asked if she knew my dad, and she nodded. "He's my brother." My world tilted. Dad had never mentioned a sister. "He made a choice," she said, voice tight. "One that hurt a lot of people." She gestured toward the envelope. "Read it. You deserve the truth." With shaking hands, I opened the letter. It was Dad's handwriting. He wrote about a falling out with his family, about something that happened long ago, about a lost inheritance, a feud, and secrets buried in this house. He'd tried to leave it all behind. The last line chilled me. "If you're reading this, the past has caught up. Be careful who you trust." That's when I noticed a keyhole behind an old bookshelf. The velvet pouch's key fit perfectly. Behind the door was a narrow passage that led to a small, dusty room. Inside was a locked metal box, filled with letters, documents, and a birth certificate. My name was on it. But the mother listed wasn't the woman who raised me. My knees buckled. The woman in the photo, she was my real mother. I turned to my aunt, stunned. Why didn't anyone tell me? She sighed. Because your stepmother loved you like her own. And your dad. He thought he was protecting you. My head spun. Then, the front door slammed. Heavy footsteps echoed through the house. My aunt's eyes widened. He's here. Dad appeared in the doorway. His eyes flicked to the open secret room. The documents, then to me. I never wanted you to find this, he said. But she's not the only one who kept secrets. My voice shook. What do you mean? He looked exhausted. When your mother died, it wasn't just an accident. There were questions. An investigation. I didn't want that shadow over your childhood. He looked down. There was never proof. But I chose silence. I chose peace for you. I looked at him, the man I had trusted all my life, and I felt everything at once. Betrayal, sorrow, love. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because I thought you'd stop seeing me as your father, he whispered. I stepped closer. You're my father. That hasn't changed. We stood there in silence, surrounded by the weight of the truth. Families, I realized, aren't always built on honesty. Sometimes they're built on love. Sometimes, fear, but the truth, no matter how painful, it finally come out. As we walked out of the house together, I glanced back one last time. The past had caught up. Nothing would ever be the same again. But for the first time in my life, I knew who I was, and that was the only way forward.